Let's start again on the morning of the 20th, and we can see that the page header to the left is paused to reorganize, and it also notes that the 20th of July broke with a low threatening cloud that prevented flying operations all morning. Now there are some gains throughout the day, specifically Guards Armor Division comes down and secures the village of Frenouville. 7th Armor comes into Bourgebou, finally takes the village, finding that it had been abandoned by the Germans, all but a single tank. 7th Armor Division also pushes out to the west, but finds it too heavily held. They are then withdrawn to allow 2nd Canadian Corps to advance up the ridge with the aim of taking the village of Verrières. They are held up as well, fighting uphill into the entrenched Germans. In the early afternoon, once the weather clears up a little bit and they can get some air support, the Canadians also push forward and take the town of Saint-André and the surrounding areas, just mopping up as they move forward. And then it notes on the next page, a violent thunderstorm broke over the battlefield in the late afternoon and soon turned the powdery soil into mud. Wireless communication became difficult, movement was slowed, and air support greatly hampered. And that stalls the attack completely, leaving the lines as shown here on the map to the right. The battle over the next couple of days turns into attack, counterattack on both sides, with neither side willing to make any major advances, with the British forces finally just regrouping and setting up for one more big attack, trying to force a breakout. So that's going to be what we see coming up here later in the month and into August. And I'm reminded here of one of the main reasons I started doing the series in the first place. As I noted at the very beginning, the Normandy map in DCS World is going to have months of activity covered. You couldn't pick a better spot to put a map in DCS World. So if I haven't explicitly made that point lately, there it is again. This is a major phase of the war that takes place right here. And anybody that was worried about this being a small area, the Spitfires that we're following have not left the geographic boundaries of Normandy once since the invasion. And we're just barely past halfway through the time in this area. And let's move on to the squadron records. Flying hampered, as it mentioned in the Victory in the West Volume 3 I've been drawing off of for the battle. But 441 on the 20th notes that 4 of our aircraft carried out an uneventful patrol of the beach area. 442 has dawn readiness up at 0400 and due to bad weather waited around intelligence until 0800 and then returned to billets. Sun shining before 1000. First patrol of 4 airborne at 1125, uneventful. Second 4 at 1225. Ran into about 40, and Flight Lieutenant Olmsted destroyed 2 Focke-Wulf 190s, and Flying Officer Blair shot up one and saw the pilot bail out. And that's 19 for the squadron to date. Both of Flight Lieutenant Olmsted's were hit at about 23,000 feet using cannon only. In both cases, his aircraft was hit by flying debris. Third at 1325 was quiet. Fourth quartet at 1425 hours, also quiet. Flight Lieutenant Dover in the Oster ran into a lot of flak. 4 more at 1525 returned due to rain. Squadron then put on 30-minute readiness. Rain on and off all evening. Wing Commander Hodgson said goodbye over the Taney, Group Captain McGregor having arrived. So in this new setup for the wings, we're seeing that the wing commanders who had been commanding the ground side of the wing are being replaced by group captains, which is one rung higher on the rank scale. And that's because the wing strength is going from 3 squadrons to 4 squadrons, and it was deemed more appropriate to have a group captain in that billet. And then 443, weather cloudy and misty, visibility poor, clearing during the early afternoon and later becoming cloudy with light rain. All pilots attended a gen session at intelligence called by the wing commander flying at 10:30 hours. The squadron's initial pack-up of forms finally received today. This squadron came overseas February 1st, 1944 as 127 Squadron. 2 Focke-Wulf 190s destroyed this afternoon on an armed recce. Squadron Leader McLeod getting his 20th victim and Flight Lieutenant Robillard his 7th. A new pilot from 83 GSU reported in the evening, being Pilot Officer Weg. He is a replacement pilot for Flight Lieutenant Schenk, who is now non-effective sick. So let's move on to the very few, yet very eventful missions they have going on here. Now, 442 Squadron is up on patrol duty all day, 11:25 through 16:45, well, throughout the afternoon, when weather permits, I suppose. And the first patrol was uneventful. Second patrol, 12:25, high patrol at 20 to 25,000 feet between Bayeux and a point 10 miles north of Cabourg, when south of Caen warned of a large number of bogies and shortly ran into about 40-plus Focke-Wulf 190s over St. Lo at 23,000 feet. In the ensuing combat, Flight Lieutenant Olmsted destroyed 2 Flying Officer Blair destroyed one. Of the 2 aircraft shot down by Olmsted, one broke into flames and the other exploded violently in midair, much flying debris hitting Flight Lieutenant Olmsted's aircraft. The pilot of Flying Officer Blair's destroyed was seen to bail out after Blair had expended all his ammo. So it's been very, very rare so far to see that many German aircraft around at one time, and it's also very rare to see these Spitfires up at high altitude like that, so now we have a data point, I suppose, for an altitude they're patrolling at when it describes these as high patrols, so 20 to 25,000 feet. And we see more large groups of Germans throughout the day, but the next patrol was uneventful, and the same goes for the 1430, 1630, and 1530 high patrols by 442. Now, during those patrols, and slightly after they had encountered the 40 German aircraft, 443 is up on an armed reconnaissance, 1455 to 1555. 12 aircraft took off on armed recce GC9 to Le Sceaux-Bernay-L'Aigle area. Visibility poor with solid cumulus cloud at 2,000 feet. 2 aircraft turned back early from the CO section, one due to unserviceable radio, and the second as escort. Remaining 4 sighted a lone Focke-Wulf 190 on the deck in the Bernay area and chased by Squadron Leader McLeod, but before a burst could be fired, the Jerry pulled up sharply, climbed to 1,000 feet and bailed out, parachuting to safety, and the aircraft crashed nearby. I've read about other cases of that happening, but it's always kind of a surprise whenever you see it come up. Although, putting yourself in the position of a vastly outnumbered enemy, alone on the deck being chased, you can start to understand stories like this and why and how that would come about. And this one, it says, was claimed as destroyed by Squadron Leader McLeod for his 20th victory. The remaining 6 aircraft, led by Flight Lieutenant Robillard, attacked 30 Focke-Wulf 190s at 4,000 feet over Bernay. One destroyed by Flight Lieutenant Robillard, and then his section nipped smartly away, the odds being too great. Yeah, 30 versus 6, that is a wise decision on his part to get out of there. So these Spitfire pilots are confident. We've seen them go up against, and will continue to see them go up against a superior opponent, but only when the advantage is on their side. If they're outnumbered or in a bad position, they don't hesitate to disengage. Now, one MET was also destroyed by Squadron Leader McLeod on the outskirts of Bernay. And then the last mission of the day is a single 4-ship patrol by 441 Squadron at 1640, and it's just a beach patrol, uneventful. And as I noted earlier, the weather moves in, and it actually does. It looks like shut down flying for the next 3 days. So I'm just going to wrap this video up here and come back tomorrow with a description of the 21st of July. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.